playing games, Ari, what was that like?
So I think that people who have continued to play football games on EA Sports, the number one concern when they announced that this game would come back is that it would just feel like playing Madden, but a reskinned version of it. So the initial thought, and it hits you right out of the gate, is that the gameplay and the gameplay speed is just faster. It does not feel anything like Madden, and I think traditionally that was always the case. Like NCAA was faster. And having played some Madden, I can't tell, and maybe you can help me out with this, Chris, if I have muscle memory of how to play the game from my Madden exposure, or if all of the controls that we, became second nature 10 years ago just came back to me. But I felt like I played and I knew exactly how to play immediately. Like the passing meter, I thought would be a difficult thing to adjust to. It's not at all. Like it's the same type of feel that you would have had throwing in the past, where you would either tap the button for a loft or hold it for a thing. You just have to time it better. But that's not that big of a difference. I thought that it was going to change the entire way to play the game. I don't think that that's the case. And the tackles are very realistic, I thought, and I do really think that the graphics are much better. But honestly speaking, Chris, I thought it was very similar and felt very close to what it felt like when I used to play. Like it wasn't an incredibly different game to me. Like I felt it was just an updated version of the game that we missed.
So we have different backgrounds on gaming, kind of. I had not gotten a new console in like 10, 12 years. I still have a 360. I still have a PS2. When I play games, I play those. I'll play NCAA 13 on though. You have had a PS5 for a while. You have played the new Maddens and all that stuff. When I got my Xbox just for this game, my Xbox Series S, just for this game, I played Madden for a bit so I could get used to it, so I could compare Madden to NCAA or college football. And it does feel different. It does feel faster. It does feel smoother. And I picked it up right away. There are some adjustments. Obviously, the right joystick to kind of get into your pre-play stuff, as opposed to just being able to hit triggers and bumpers like in the past. But I love running the ball in this game, man. Like, it is really, really fun. Handoffs, RPOs, options. It's so smooth. It's like better than it's ever been. That was my impression in May. And after playing it a bunch more here, I get like annoyed when I'm in a 3rd and long because I just want to try out different run plays. Like, I'm not even interested in the passing. I thought the meter was not that big of a deal, but it is a bit of an adjustment. If you hold it for too long, it's going to impact the accuracy of your throw. But again, you can turn that off. You can just go to classic passing options. So if you don't want to do that, again, this is very customizable to make the game simple if you want. I've had trouble passing the ball. I've thrown some interceptions. Some of that's on the meter, some of that's on me. What did you think of running and passing? You thought passing was fine.
Well, the thing that I'll say about the game, and this was always the case to a certain extent, but I felt it dramatically more in this version. If you have a player who has a star underneath them, signifying that they are one of the best players or an impact player on your team, they make a big difference. Like I played with USC, and the passing experience throwing the ball to Zachariah Branch was different than when I was playing with other teams because he was so fast and had great catching ability. If you have a running back who's very good, I played a few games with Kansas State because I'm really into Kansas State, and DJ Giddens is a really good player, and the ability in this game, in the running game, to cut back or feel it out and then explode through holes with talented players, I think is a more user-friendly and user-reliant skill than it used to be. Like in the past, it felt like when you would run the ball, you were going to get a gain or a big gain or a loss based on where the blocking scheme leads you to and who's there when you get there. And in this game, you can cut back, you can juke, the spin move is more pronounced. Like, I think that's great. Probably why you're so into running, because it makes you feel like the running back has more control over whether the the play is going to be a positive or negative play based on your stick ability. So like that to me is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a huge difference between playing with good teams and playing with not good teams. We'll get into dynasty mode in a bit, but if you're playing with a group of 5 team versus if you're playing with Alabama, who I've played a lot with, you feel that dramatically, especially when it comes to like defensive line or star players and stuff like that. So that is definitely there. So Kansas State, that seems to be your team. You're kind of digging Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens and all that.
Yeah, and I like Dylan Edwards. I've been playing with all sorts of teams, and I did games where I'll only play a half just to get a feel for the team. But Kansas State, I really enjoyed playing with. The first game that I played, so I had a friend over that was in town visiting, and it wasn't on purpose, but they had the game pre-ordered, so I got the first experience that I had was playing the game with somebody who was excited and had the game pre-ordered, whereas playing against the computer. So we sat down together on the couch, hit the game open, and like watched the opening scene. You know what I mean? And like kind of just soaked it in together. And then he went to Penn State, so he was a Penn State. He wanted to play Penn State, so the first game we played was Ohio State Penn State because we wanted to see the rivalry. We wanted to do a whiteout. We couldn't figure out how to get the whiteout, by the way.
So I think the whiteout only happens in dynasty mode in big games. That's my sense.
So you can't do it in
kind of annoying.
So that might be a criticism where you should be able to in the beginning where it says nighttime, like big time atmosphere nighttime should be an option because like that was the number one thing I was excited to see, like that type of atmosphere. But it was a very entertaining game, and getting to share it with somebody who was in my house, I thought made for a good experience on the first game back.
Yeah, so the computer. I've played the computer a few times, and I'm not good at playing. Are you good at defense at all? I'm terrible at defense.
I am better playing defense against a person than I am the computer.
So that's interesting. So playing the computer here, the computer. I just played on varsity level. And the computer is a lot smarter than it ever has been before.
It's very smart. I've known. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did play with USC against Utah, and they scored in 2 plays, so super realistic, by the way.
So, like, the team I was playing, they would start to go up tempo more often, or just intermittently at various times. Or if I ran the same play 2 times in a row, they figure that out. If it's a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1, they're selling out for the run, and they know that it's coming. And so I've had trouble stopping the defense, stopping as a defense when I play. But offensively, I am in love with the Wake Forest playbook. I was playing with Alabama with the Wake playbook, and it's got the slow mesh in there, which is it's called an RPO walk, where you're going to have the option to hand off or a quick pass. And man, that stuff is lethal. Like, let me
dig into that with you, though.
Just unreal. Yeah.
So in the past, play action plays against the other active player were impossible because it takes a second to develop, and by the time you get your bearings to throw it, you're sacked.
Yeah.
The slow mesh is obviously slower. It's a slower version of the RPO. Did you find success running that, or did you find yourself losing yardage a lot?
It depends who you're playing. If you're playing a team that's better and has a really good defensive line, you're not going to be able to run the ball in it. However, when I was playing as Alabama, I could make it work. And I would essentially kind of have to use the pass to set up the run, where I would call the play and I would pass it a few times. Then the linebackers would start to back off when I'd run it again, and then I could start running it. I did find some success running it, not a lot. I did find a lot. Do you
find that somebody could play with Wake Forest online against Georgia and cook them because they got good at that?
Probably not, because I think Georgia's defensive line is going to be too good. You're not going to have enough time. Now, that's why, in a way, it almost works as just a straight up passing play. Because you quick pass it, and it just sometimes sucks in the linebackers. That's what I found the most success using it as. It's essentially just a pass play. So, like, that's fun. I did Air Force against Boise State and went triple option down the field. That's a whole lot of fun. There's so many options here. We're going to have David Ubben on the podcast later this week. He's a big custom playbook guy. And I'm very curious what he's going to think about all that, because there are so many different things you can pull into this. All right, is there anything else on gameplay you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we can go to the next thing, but it was a good reminder that Ubben's going to be there. We're going to have way more hours, so having it over the weekend with a baby's been tough. But I'm going to dedicate work days this week to playing it, and Ubben's going to play it, and Chris is going to play it more, so we're going to have more in-depth discussion later in the week. But yes, we can move on to the next thing.
Yes. Also, real quick, you're right about the realism. The realism is insane. Like, I played some games at Michigan State, at TCU, stadiums that I've been at a lot, and it just feels so real. It really feels like you're there. So just major props to everybody who did that. So
the thing the thing with the realism, Chris, is like when we were playing Penn State on third downs, you would hear that, like the noise that these stadiums play in real life makes you feel. And I had my mother-in-law was in the room when the game started, and she's like, "Oh my God, I thought that was like just a replay of a game." She didn't like realize that we were playing the game. Like, it looks that real. And I think that the actual capturing of what turning on a big game on ESPN on Saturday night to watch would feel like.
The sound is such a difference maker compared to years past. And that's a big part of what makes it feel real.